everyone, my name is Emily Hall, and today I will be demonstrating the use of a memory bubble pulled from a unit plan based on Standard 11.1a, which covers the plight of African Americans as they sought equality post-World War II. This memory bubble specifically will be focused on the landmark Supreme Court case and catalyst for the civil rights movement, Brown versus the Board of Education. Memory bubbles are perfect for organizing information of a particular event or person, in that one can easily place the subject in the middle and add all the details around the outside. This type of organizer is especially great for visual learners. On the board here, you'll see an example of a blank history memory bubble, and this is what I would hand out to students, where I've put the subject here in the middle, and then they would be responsible for adding these details or facts around the outside. If I were going to use this activity, I would probably start by saying something like, okay class, we've just finished watching and reading an overview of the civil rights movement, as well as putting together our timelines. So now it is time to look at our first major event from the civil rights movement, Brown versus the Board of Education. We know from the read aloud we just completed and from our timeline that this decision came about in 1954. What else do we need to know? And then I would expect for students to either raise their hand or offer suggestions, like the key people involved, what did it do, how was it historically significant, why was this even a case? And we would collect some of these questions, and I would say for an event as important as Brown versus the Board of Education, you will need to know a few important facts like the ones you just suggested we look for. A great way to organize those facts around a central subject is a memory bubble, like this one I have projected. See how there is a space in each of the four circles to add the most important information? You can also draw a line and create more circles to add more facts that you think are important. Once this is complete, you can use it as a reference or a study guide. So now I'm going to ask that you count off by fours and form groups. In your groups, you can use your timelines, the article we read earlier, and your textbooks to find the answers to the questions, which I will post on the Smartboard. So at this time, I would pass out this memory bubble to each student, and they would work in their groups. During the group work time, I would circulate through the groups and make sure that they're on task and locating the information they need to fill out their memory bubble. Also, I would check in with students that have diverse learning needs that may require that I restate or clarify the instructions and help them locate information in the textbook. A completed memory bubble would look something like this. I would expect for something like this with Brown versus the Board of Education to have the date, what it did, which was it overturned Plessy versus Ferguson ruling of separate versus equal, any important people that were involved. In this case, Thurgood Marshall argued the case for the plaintiffs, and what the ruling was. And so the students would have the subject and then the really important ideas and details from the case. As I stated to the students, this is a great tool for them as they prepare for future in-class assessments as well as the regents, which would expect a pretty decent knowledge on this case. Outside of a simple organizer for an event or a person, memory bubbles are also great for big, complex ideas or to show relationships. For instance, in the civil rights movement, I could have students create a memory bubble for Martin Luther King Jr. Or the March on Washington, and that would look very similar to this with those subjects in the middle and then the key facts on the outside. But I could also have them create one on a theme, like resistance, where they could talk about, put resistance in the middle and then the ways in which African Americans resisted, or they could talk about, from a different perspective, the way that some people resisted the civil rights movement. They could also do one on nonviolent protests and give examples of different nonviolent protests, or they could look at nonviolent protests and talk about the 6 principles of nonviolence, or different ways in which nonviolence has been witnessed throughout history. As such, this literacy tool has a multitude of uses both in and out of the classroom.